Welcome everyone in the webcast audience. This is our elder law section, and I'm Terry Maggedy, the chairman of our section. And the first thing I always do is show our appreciation for sponsors, because those are the folks that really enable us to keep these great programs happening. So our list of sponsors are going to be up on the screen right now. And our first and probably longest running sponsor is the Sanborn team. Nancy and Brian, just specialists in our probate and trust and conservatorship and elder issues, and they're great. They've been in this business a long time and specialize in the types of matters that we all deal with. Next, right under them on the screen, I could say them together because they are together, I believe. Bond Services of California is out in front. That's who everybody sees. And Liberty Mutual Surety is in the background doing the surety, but also great. Anyone who works in our field knows those folks very well because they provide great customer service to all of us, and of course specialize in our probate matters. And right under them, we have the California Title Company, a title company that specializes in probate, trust, conservatorships, and very helpful to have people title field that really know our work that we do. And finally, Pickford Escrow Company, another provider that works in the probate, trust, conservatorship arena, and really provides great expertise in that area to make things all easier for all of us who work in the area. And the next thing I want to do is announce our program that's coming up, which is December 1. And that program is entitled Disability Discrimination and Workplace Accommodations in California. Our speaker is attorney Leanne Lee. And I would, highly recommend attending this one because, disabilities in the workplace are issues that come up all the time. And in our group, we focus on older folks and we focus on people with disabilities. Sometimes they're very similar issues. So that program is December 1, and you'll be getting an email flyer about it shortly. And so hope to see you guys there. And now for our program today, our regular speaker, Barry Sikov, who always draws so many people, and it's such a compliment to Barry because Barry speaks to us almost annually. Perhaps we've skipped a year here or there, and the attendance is always tremendous. And that's a testament to Barry, because even though Barry is with Belair Insurance and is a health insurance agent, that does not really describe what Barry's all about. He's just a tremendous expert and resource in this field, in just so many ways. He and his team at Belair, he's got a great team too that's really evolved so that they have a high level of expertise as well. And so Barry is going to be talking about Medicare, very timely right now, Medicare supplemental plans. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Barry. Barry, welcome once again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Terry, and it's always a pleasure to be able to come and speak with you folks. Today is an interesting day in our world. The government's still not back to work, and that has an impact on Medicare dramatically because there are people every day aging or retiring into the system. So some of the things I'm going to add on top of the slides, and any of you that have any interest in more details are welcome to put your information in the Q&A or the chat box. We're going to talk about what every attorney should know about Medicare. And just like you guys as guys and gals as attorneys, you don't specialize in all aspects of law, but each of you have a specialty, whether it be probate or estate planning or retirement planning, any particular side. My specialty in the insurance world has evolved into Medicare, and as you can tell by my hair color, I am a card-carrying member of the Royal Society of Medicarians. I have a Medicare card in my pocket, and I have a plan that I've been on for the last X number of years. I won't tell you how old I am. Next slide, please. So as we deal with the issue of Medicare, there's a couple of things to know. We start off with where are you today before you get to Medicare? So you could have an individual plan that you bought through Covered California or one of the carriers directly. You could have a family plan, not just you as an individual, but the whole family up to the age of 26 when a child has to come off and get their own plan. Or you could have an employer-sponsored plan, a group plan. And that's going to be part of the target for us later on in the presentation. Next slide. So what I'd like to do is ask you to look at your hand while you're sitting there. I'm going to give you a visual I use with my clients all the time. So I ask a person, do you know what an HMO looks like? And so if you look at your hand, that's one of the two categories. Do you have a managed care plan or do you have the ability to manage it yourself? So the HMO is the palm of your hand. That's a medical group. It could be Cedars-Sinai Medical Group, UCLA Medical Group. You wiggle your thumb, that's your primary doctor. You wiggle your fingers, those are the specialists. So you see the primary doctor first, who you choose, and then the doctor says, well, it looks to me like you've got a stomach problem. You need to get to a gastroenterologist, and that's one of the fingers. So you wiggle your fingers, and the doctor refers you to that person. And so in this case, the primary doctor is kind of like the bus driver. He takes you, not physically, but literally promotes you to the next doctor you're going to see. A PPO version, just cover up your palm and wiggle your thumb and fingers, and that's where you simply go online, or you have a directory of doctors that are connected with your insurance company, and you choose anybody that's contracted. You do have the option to choose a doctor that's not in the network and get reimbursed something. But as you can see on the slide above, the HMO, if the doctor you want to see is not in the network, it's 100% out of your pocket. Next. This is the goal. Everybody wants to get one of these cars like John Smith has, and I still run into people that have the old one. Notice the ID number under John's name, and the alphabet that you see there, the number, the position, and the letter have no relevance to anything else. They're not spatially oriented like the prior cards used to be our social security numbers with a letter at the end. So if you have any clients or friends or family that have an old card that's got a social security number on it, they need to contact Social Security or Medicare on the website and they order a fresh card. And you'll see that on the card, it's just arbitrary numbers, machine generated. Hospital is inpatient and medical is outpatient. I wish they called it that way, but I don't have the influence or connections. But the goal is to get the card and you have a start and a date for each of the two. I like to point out that Part A you get for free, and we'll talk more about that in a moment, and Part B, which is what just happened this morning, I just got the first number, they're coming out now. Part B is something you pay for. Part A you don't pay for. You've already paid for it. So when you get Medicare, Part A is your inpatient care, and that's covered at approximately 100%, depending upon what you add to it. And then your Medicare Part B is all your outpatient visits, and that's only covered at 80%, and you pay for that either out of your Social Security check or from a check that you use a check or a credit card when you get the paper bill. You then have options to add a Medicare supplement plan, which covers the parts that are not included by A and B, and you then have to add a drug plan, or you can assign your benefits from Medicare to option 2, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. And this is where the insurance company that you've chosen, whatever company it is, will combine parts A and B, will typically include prescription drugs, and may provide some bells and whistles. Next. Part A. I'm not going to read these all because you all have the ability if you want to get this, but I just want to give you the brief overview so we have enough room for questions at the end. I refer to this as an entitlement, and it's because each paycheck that all of us have taken over the last X number of years of work, hopefully at least 10 years, out of your check, money is taken out to go to Social Security, and some of it goes to Medicare, and the rest goes to the tax system. So you've already been paying into this your entire life. So when you finally cross the threshold and be a Royal Society Medicarian member, you now will get your Part A at no cost because you're entitled to it. You've already paid for it. And that's wonderful. And if you've paid taxes for at least 10 years, you pay nothing for Part A, and you get all of the luxury of the hospitals in almost every hospital in the United States except Medicare. Next slide. Part B is outpatient care, and it covers 80%, and that leaves a 20% gap. So we used to have things called Medigap policies. That's how they used to describe them. But somewhere in marketing, the government said, it doesn't really sound nice, so we're just going to call them Medicare supplements. And there is a cost for this. Medicare Part B is based on your income, and it's indexed every year. So here's the good news or the bad news is I just got the first number today, and they kind of leak them out until December 1st when they go public, that today the minimum amount people pay for Part B is $185. And I'm almost embarrassed to tell you it's going up to $206.50. And that's only a 12% increase. I don't know what you think about that, but I won't tell you what I think about it. But that's another matter. So you're going to pay more, everybody in the entire United States will pay more for their Part B, and that amount comes out of your Social Security check automatically if you're on Social Security. And if you have to get a paper bill, the good news is you can pay that amount with a Visa, Master, Discover, or American Express and get some miles or points out of it. So your outpatient therapies are covered, chemo, radiation, and physical therapies, and you buy a supplement that will cover all of these things, and they're not particularly expensive, especially compared to a prior to Medicare cost from Covered California or a carrier or the group for that matter. Next slide. This is the chart for today, and it's got a lot of details on there, and so if you want a copy of it, I'll be glad to send it to you. At the top, you notice 2025, and right below you see Magi. So the government has got some wisdom in what they do, believe it or not, and they use a 1040 form, the top page of your tax return from 23, so there's a 2-year look back. And the reason for this is because people have different investments, and sometimes it takes a while for the K1s to come through and make everything work on your final return. So line 2A is the tax-free municipal bond line. It's not taxed by the government, but they bring it back in to modify your adjusted gross income, which is line 11, add them together, and that number that is in the top right blank box in the purple section, you would go to either how you file taxes as a single, or if you're married as a family, then you're filing taxes jointly. You look in the left-hand column, and wherever your number comes in, that's the amount that will be assigned. I will point out the orange box because I rarely look at this in my system because almost everybody is, if they're married, they are filing jointly. The government is deliberately penalizing you by not filing jointly. And you'll see when you look at the fact that there's only 3 price brackets, and at the top, you'll see that there are 6 brackets. So that's also doing the same thing in the world of Covered California or any of the Obamacare plans nationwide. They penalize you for not filing taxes together. So just an example, your income's 150,000, you're a single, so you go to the 133 to 167 at the top, you see the number 185. Above the column income-related monthly adjustment, think of it as IRMA, that's what we use. And that's kind of like the hurricane we had last year. And you add to that the base rate, which is the 185 in the next column. And so you're paying 370 for the Part B. That's the 80% portion that is covered by the government, and the 20% is yours. Now, you also have a drug plan, and this is not insurance. This is the cost of getting the drug plan covered by the government, what they pay, $35.30. So you're just sitting just around $400 if your income's 150. 400 times 12, $4,800. $5,000 is what you're paying for your Medicare if you made 150. Not a bad number. But notice at the very bottom, if you're at 150, that puts you at a whole different number. You're starting at 185, you add 406, you're at 591 if you're filing separately. So that's a pretty severe penalty when you look at the numbers. Next slide. Part B itself is outpatient care, and we have 47 states that use the ABCs of Medicare, and we'll see that in a moment. And we have Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Massachusetts, which are called waiver states. All three of them have the identical design, but it is totally different than what you're about to see. The next slide we'll talk about plans A through N. So yes, we have parts, and yes, we have plans. Two different sets of words, and that's where we are. The cost of buying a Medicare supplement in Plan G is the highest level open to new people, is going to be based on two things. How old are you when the plan starts? And then number two, what zip code do you live in? There are optional dental and vision plans, which are less than $100 you can add at any time. Some carriers give you incentives to add them up front. And in California, we have some unique things going on. I should point out that I'm licensed in 39 states, so when I do what I'm doing with you, I can do this anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world for that matter. If you're on vacation in some other country, I can even do a Zoom with you there. And in California, what's happening is we have benefits beyond Medicare. We are the only state that gives you gym memberships and vision and hearing and over-the-counter, all of the things you see listed. Each carrier chooses, what do I want to do to sweeten the pie to get you to come to our plan? And in California, we also have a welcome to Medicare discount that 4 of the major carriers are giving you dollars up front. You'll save $25 or $30 a month for the first year to get them to come to that particular carrier. That doesn't exist in any other state, which is fascinating. Competition is ferocious. People have said in the past, California should be thought of as a country of its own. We are clearly the 5th largest economy in the world, and this is why we have the competition here. Next slide. I apologize for the fuzziness. There's so many details to my world that this is the best the slide could be for today. But I highlight in color that plans C and F to the right are for people that had turned 65 prior to January 1st of 2020. They are closed to new enrollment, and that's why they're moved off to the right side. You can own a Plan C or Plan F for the rest of your life and still keep on paying premiums, but most people are being encouraged to move to something on the left side. Plan G is the highest level today. Notice that there's one empty box in the column for G, and that box that is there is because it's not covered. It's not covered by the system. So you have to pay it. And if you follow to the right of the empty box, you'll see Part B is the outpatient deductible, and it's covered by Plan C and F. They build in the premium for that into the plan. And so our government, in its wisdom, and this is tongue-in-cheek wisdom, made a decision that they're still paying for the decision. As they said, we want the seniors who retire at 65 or any age that get on Medicare to have a little football term, skin in the game. We want them to not just simply randomly go to a doctor's office because they have nothing better to do and their throat's scratchy or they have a cough or a cold, whatever. So if you had a Plan C or a Plan F, you pay nothing to go to the doctor. You might pay parking for your car. But when you have to pay money up front to the deductible, which today is $257, then you would think twice about that. So what happened in 2020 is right in the middle of COVID. And they didn't know when they were planning the law that there would be this thing called COVID. And a lot of people would get a cough or a sneeze or some fever, something was going on medically. And they said, well, it's going to cost me $257 to go to the doctor and find out. Well, the good or the bad news of this is they find out sometimes too late, end up in the hospital, and a lot of those people that ended up in the hospital by not paying the 257 sooner ended up dying. And the government didn't have any plans on any of this happening, but that was a byproduct of somebody's innovation of getting skin in the game. So just a little thought for you there. Excess charges, you see Part B excess charges, go to the right, you see in purple excess charges. That's where the government says if you have a doctor that opts into Medicare, they can take 80/20 and that's how it's covered, or they can have 80/20 and get the excess charges cost as well. And that's where the doctor is allowed to charge 15% more money than what Medicare approves. So that's a nice feature to have. So when they built Plan G, they built it to include that. Next slide. Okay, everybody has to have a drug plan. Everybody thinks it's optional, but if you don't have a drug plan, there are some things that you'll see in another slide called late enrollment penalties. So this is my world that is going crazy right now because of what the government's been doing and what the carriers are doing. Today, 25, we have 7 insurance companies that are competing for your business. Each of the companies have their own formularies, and that's a book of drugs that they're willing to cover. So there are now, this year, 16 choices. Each one's a different formulary. Each company has chosen which drugs they want to cover. Notice I said the government didn't choose that. The companies chose that, and they're all in business to make money. That's fair. And so 7 companies today want your business. And as of January 1st, one of the companies says, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. We don't want to sell drug plans nationwide. Just let you know who that is. It's Anthem Blue Cross. And they just decided they don't want to do that. And that's okay. You don't have to sell drug plans. You don't even have to sell Medicare Advantage plans if you don't want to. So everybody in a free society like ours has, as a carrier, the right to make choices. They all have formularies, and the formularies are different than what you may have today. So if you have an individual family plan or you have a group insurance, I'm holding up 3 fingers, you've only got 3 types of drugs, categories or tiers of drugs. If the formulary has a book of the drugs listed, tier 1 is a generic, it's in the book, tier 2 is a name brand, it's in the book, and tier 3 is any drug that's not in the book. So you have 3 different levels of coverage, but you'll see in a moment. We have 5 levels of coverage for the government plan called Part D. Why is that? Because the government's paying a part of each drug that you buy. Part of the cost for the drug, they're paying part of the cost for Plan D. Insurance companies change the formularies and drugs every year. And this year we're going from, let's go to the next slide. This is, I'll pause my thought for just a second. This is a sheet that we use to do intake for the consumers, where we send an email version of this. It's a PDF, and you can just simply type in a list of the drugs you're taking, and this will be relevant in the next chart. You'll notice at the bottom of the top box, you'll see preferred pharmacy, and that's one thing a lot of people miss. So anybody that looks at this, you want to make sure, tell us what pharmacy you like, and then tell us who you are, your Medicare information, and where you're coming from. And the signature at the bottom allows me or one of our staff to go into the website called medicare.gov, and that's where all of the drug plans lives for every single society member that's on Medicare. Your record of what drugs you're taking is there because the government's paying for it. And that's where we do the calculations. And Barry doesn't do the calculation, the government does. So it's really a wonderful system for automation. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to say, I forgot that other chart was in that spot, is today we have 16 plans, and come January, we're losing 4 of them. If you do the math, that's a difference of 4 plans. And if you have 4 plans less competing for your business, what does that tell you? The premiums are going to change. and the formulary is going to change. So the formulary gets smaller. They don't have to cover all the expensive drugs that you see on TV, and they don't have to cover, other than the categories, they need 2 drugs for every condition out there, every major condition. And so now competition is driving this, and the government has allowed them to simply do this. So 12 drug plans instead of 16. Next slide. This is the chart for this year. And if any of you have watched the slideshows before, the year before this, right where you see what the enrollee pays in the middle, the 5 tiers, there used to be something called the donut hole. We also called it the coverage gap. And so the federal laws were built many years ago, back in 2000, when they were planning this, and they engineered it so that in January 1st of this year, the coverage gap would go away. The donut hole, the concept, if you can see my hand, the plan used to pay nothing. And then when Obama became president, by the way, Bush is the one that built Part D, but when Obama came into the plan, he says, well, we've got to work on that because it's not fair for the consumer to have to pay a lot of money for their drugs if they happen to spend more than the initial coverage. So where you see standard coverage stage here, last year it was 185, 1,850 rather, and then for this year it went up to 2,000, I'm sorry, 2,000, and that's considered the max out of pocket today. Last year, the max out of pocket, this is 2024, was $8,000. A little bit of quick math, the difference between 8,000 and 2,000, $6,000. So the question is, who's going to pay that? And so right below there, you see who that is. It's the drug plan and the government are paying that extra 6,000 out of pocket. And so keep the number 2,000 in mind for just a moment. Notice at the top, there is a deductible of $590. But the good news is it's been re-engineered here. So the tier 1 and tier 2, the generic drugs, are not subject to the deductible, only tier 3, 4, and 5. So they're trying to fix a way so the consumer doesn't have to pay a lot of money and encourage them to go to the generic drugs. Most of you know the difference between generic and name brand is typically money, but there's also some chemical differences. And once in a while, there is a drug where they're not exactly the same. So let's go to the next page. This is the new chart. So the government made a mistake and they said, we're going to go from 2,000, from 8,000 down to 2,000. And so notice on the right, it's now 2,100. It should have gone, in our opinion, and other advisors, it should have gone to 4,000 because that's a reasonable amount for people to pay for medicine. But now the insurance companies down in the bottom of this slide are paying more of the cost of the drugs. And the formulary used to be called it 12 inches wide, now it's 9 inches wide. And any of the drugs that were outside of the formulary, if you want to take them, they're 100% out of pocket. So the government is practicing medicine here. They're directing you to use a formulary-based drug if you want to have it covered. And if you have a weird condition and you need something that's not covered, then there are other financial tools out there that we know about to encourage you how to get coverage from a government agency or somebody that's giving a grant for dollars. So my world is constantly changing. So at the very bottom, I'm just pointing out here that there are vaccines are all covered at a zero copay now. Insulin has been reduced down to $35, and come January, there's a list of 10 drugs that were part of the Biden administration re-engineered to cost less money. And just like insulin used to be $300 to $400 a month for a person, it's $35. I'll just mention one that comes to mind is Eliquis. Today is $550 on the drug plan, and you're going to pay that for 60 little pills every month. And that's going to go down to, we're projected, I haven't seen it in writing yet, $190. So they're actually working behind the scenes to try to help us instead of letting big pharma get bigger. So the key here, use a drug on the formulary. Next slide. If you need help paying for medications, there is something that came out for January of this year and has not been very popular, but it's called MPPP, which is Medicare Prescription Payment Plan. So when I'm teaching a class like this elsewhere, I ask a person if they happen to remember what Kmart was famous for way back when they started doing business. And most people don't remember, but they came out with the concept of marketing called layaway. So you'd buy your farm, you'd plan for the holidays and you have a little bit of money, you put it down and they'll save it somewhere in storage. And you pay a little bit every month towards the cost of your Christmas gifts. And when you get to December, you go pick it up and they're all paid off. So you don't have to worry about it. So next slide. This is an example of what it looks like. This is what they use the term smoothing. So at the top of the arrow and the top, I wish I could point this, but if you see 1996, imagine you have your drug that you just found out got psoriatic arthritis, you need Humira, Enbrel, one of those types, expensive drugs. You go to the pharmacy and it's $2,000 and you look at your balance on your credit card, you don't have enough left in there to squeeze it in. You don't have it in the checkbook and you don't have it in your pocket. So you're going to have to figure out a way to pay that. And that's $2,000 per month. So let's assume that you're going to take this every month. So the PPP plan, the Medicare purchasing plan, will smooth it out and divide that into 11 more months at 181 per month. Only problem with this is that there's another 2,000 the next month and the next month and the next month, and your cap is 2,100. So what we're doing is we're allowing the insurance company to do the finance. There's no interest, no penalty, no payments that you have to worry about up front, other than you'll get a bill from the insurance company to pay the premium to buy the drug plan and then to pay that 181. And so the question you have to ask is, do you trust the insurance company to keep track of that? And Barry does not trust the insurance company to keep track of that. I don't know how they're doing because almost nobody, I don't think I have a single client that's doing it. But what if you have in the middle of the year an expenditure right below there and the drug's $900 because it's again one of these expensive non-formulary drugs, then you can have this start any time of the year. And so it's set up that the insurance company, not the pharmacy, but the pharmacy says, okay, you don't want to pay it now. We'll click a button. And when we click the button on the computer, your insurance company, one of your 7 or 6 carriers, they'll send you a bill every month. And you come here, we'll still fill your prescription. And next month, it's another 2,000. You don't have to worry about it because once you hit 2,100, the government's tracking that, then you won't have to pay anymore. So it's a very complicated system to make it a monthly payment. And some people have to because they can't afford it. And other people just say, well, we'll just see what happens. And one of the thoughts that I tell people is, what happens if you don't pay it? You don't have the 181 one month, or you now have $362 and you missed a couple of payments. There's no provision in the system to go after you for the money you didn't pay. I've not heard of any mechanism that's been created yet to go after what if you didn't make the payment. And they still have to make sure you get the drugs. So it's created a lot of questions. Let's go to the next. Is there a lower cost option than what we're looking at so far? And so the answer is, well, what if you don't want to pay for the supplement? And what if you can't afford to pay for a supplement in a drug plan? We have a thing called Medicare Advantage, and there are today at least 75 Medicare Advantage plans in LA County alone. And that's just plain old plans that are given by the 7 companies we have. So not just 6, but 7, all 7 companies. And then there's some additional companies that are smaller that have built these Advantage plans to compete for your business. And every county is different. Every state is different. Every county is different. We call these also known as Medicare Part C or MAPDs, Medicare Advantage plans with prescription drug plans. So this is a very viable system and it's been working extremely well. Competition drives it. You remember we just talked about drugs. So the PD is prescription drugs. So every one of these has a drug plan built in. So when an advisor like myself is trying to help match you up with one of these MAPDs or Part Cs, the first question I always ask is, who's your doctor? And is that doctor important to you? And the second question is, what drugs do you want to have covered? So I always use that same prescription drug worksheet to gather the data when advising people here. If anybody out there you know has not had to provide drug data, then what they're doing, in quote, is simply selling you a plan. They're not doing what's called due diligence and doing the analysis. We call it needs analysis. And if we don't know what your drugs are, and if we don't know who your doctor is, we're just taking our favorite plan and offering it to you. Barry's office will not do that. I tell a person, if you're not going to tell me your drugs or your doctors, please go somewhere else, because I can't afford to take the risk of getting you the wrong thing. And as a result of that, the government already built a plan for this to fix this. So January 1st of every year through March 31st is the MAPD open enrollment period. And so some people watch TV and they see a commercial from one of the carriers and they say, free dental, free vision, free transportation, all this free stuff. Sounds great. I'm going to call up and order it. And they call the 800 number, and the person at the other end may or may not be licensed, and they simply sign them up. And the person all of a sudden in January gets sick and has to go to their doctor. And the doctor looks at their ID card and plugs it in and finds out that they're not contracted. So there's a window of time from January 1st to the end of March to change your Medicare Advantage plan. And you might even say, well, I didn't want to be in an HMO plan. So if that happens, you have the option to go back to original Medicare, which is Part A and Part B, and a supplement and a drug plan, or stay where you are and just change to another carrier. So my world continues to get more complicated, and the more carriers that we have, the more the plans change. Excuse me a sec. Running dry. Okay. So next slide, please. So you have two kinds of plans, and they're HMOs and PPOs. And like I started at the beginning, the HMOs manage care. You have a primary doctor that is going to refer you to a specialist. And then about 5 years ago, some of the companies said, well, let's bring out PPO plans that are giving you the complete control to choose whatever doctor you want to that takes Medicare. So fast forward to last January, not this year, but last year's January, one of our biggest carriers brought out a wonderful plan, and I was absolutely thrilled to see it, because some of the seniors you know or clients you know might be paying $400 to $600 a month for a Medicare supplement. And as you get older and you deplete your assets and you've run out of retirement money and your Social Security is going up a little bit, but you don't have a lot of extra money, if you will. The idea of the PPO is, well, you don't have to pay a lot of premium up front. You might pay $40, $50, $60 or zero. And then when and if you use healthcare, you have copays. The HMO, most plans have no copays, but the PPOs have copays. And the good news is the copays do have a cap, a maximum, like you see here, well-defined out-of-pocket maximum, which is the most you pay out of pocket. But the average is, I've seen them as low as $800 and as much as $7,000 that you could pay out of pocket using the plan. So when I say using, I tell a person up front that there's the cost of buying Medicare, which is your Part B that comes out of your Social Security check. And you could have a Medicare supplement, which we just talked about. And then you have the cost of copays. And sometimes, like in Medicare supplements, you don't have copays, you just have a deductible. And so I wanted, this is where I saved that part of my news this morning, is that today the deductible is $257 for the calendar year of 2025. Good news, government decided to be gentle on us. It's only going up $10 next year. So when you have a Plan G, you'll pay the first $267. And I point out that that $267 is only a 4% increase. So that's not so bad. But back to what we're looking at here with Part C, is that because you watch the commercial on the TV and you see free stuff in these Part Cs, the HMO and the PPOs, they give you dental, vision, hearing, gym memberships, and the like that you see here at no additional cost, because they want to try to draw you into their plan. But what they don't tell you is check with your doctor contracted, because they may not be. And is your drug that you're taking now going to be covered by our formulary? None of the commercials on TV mention either one of those. Because if they did, then you scratch your head and say, I better check that out before calling the 800 number. And these $1 million commercials are designed to get you to dial the number now. And the person at the other end will almost never let you off the phone until you say, oh, sure, let's give it a try. Next slide. When can you enroll in Medicare? And this is something very critical because timing is important. Read the red line at the bottom first. There are late enrollment penalties. So many of you are on Obamacare, aka Covered California, and then you're turning 65. You'll get notices in the mail from your insurance company, not from Covered California. And they will say, your birthday's coming up in 6 months, you have to get enrolled in Medicare, because Obamacare is a federal law. Covered California is a federal law, and you cannot keep either an Obamacare plan or an individual plan once you are eligible for Medicare. And so you become eligible when you reach the age of 65, and the government says, good, we'll create a window for you to enroll. So your birthday is January 2nd, and you can then enroll as early as October 1st or as late as April 1st. And you got this wonderful window. You get enrolled in Medicare Parts A and B. And if you're an employer-based plan, is what you have instead. It doesn't say it here, but it says when retiring, you've got an 8-month window from your retirement date to enroll in Parts A and B. The interesting part about this, which will relate to another slide in a moment, is that the employer is paying a good portion of your health plan, and you pay a part as an employee, which they take out of your paycheck. When this is happening, you turn 65, the beauty of Medicare is that the employer is thought of as being a beneficiary, a benefactor, not beneficiary. They're paying premiums for you, which the government doesn't have to pay, and you don't have to pay. But when you turn 65, a lot of people think you have to get A and B, and the answer is you don't. I've regularly run into people that are turning 65 and they get on their Medicare. That's good and dandy. And then I have another patient that's 75. They say, I'm finally retiring. I look at their Medicare card, and for the last 10 years, they've been paying for Part B. And guess what? They didn't need to have Part B. And that's the problem we have in our society. The education of the general populace and the HR departments are the ones most guilty of this if you're on a group plan. They don't know you don't need Part B. So that's very critical. And so when we're looking down here at the Medicare supplement in the Part C, or the Medicare Advantage plan in the Part D, it's based on when your Part B date starts. And it usually you have to get enrolled within 63 days. So I talk about in this point that there are people that go on COBRA when they lose their group insurance. And we have a crazy thing in our law world again. COBRA is not considered creditable drug coverage because it becomes an individual plan. You own it as an individual. Your employer is not paying for it. And as a result of that, you're going to pay a late enrollment penalty when you enroll in a drug plan if you stay on COBRA too long. You get 2 months. That's the window, 63 days, before you can no longer use COBRA. And COBRA is costing hundreds of dollars, sometimes even thousands of dollars. So beware, you need an advisor that knows this, and you need to be able to advise your client. Check with somebody that knows this stuff. HR most of the time does not. Next slide. Can an employer reduce an employee's insurance premium and encourage him or her to enroll in Medicare? 9 out of 10 people say no. But there's a couple of hidden laws that only us advisors that deal with the health insurance for the groups and the individuals and Medicare. We have a training system, which I'll talk about in a moment. We have learned that there is a special provision of the law that if the employer only has between 2 and 19 employees on their group insurance, it is now legal to not have to offer all employees the same group plan. you have a person that could be the owner, could be an employee, and they're turning 65, and the employer is responsible to keep track of the dates of how old they are when they were hired. And when they find out, hey, you're having a birthday in January, we're not going to give you your Obamacare or your group insurance anymore. Instead, we're going to have you go to Medicare. And so you can legally tell the person, call Medicare, call an insurance, or here's the phone number of our insurance broker that handles our group insurance. And the employer is going to encourage you to do that because they're paying $1,500 on your behalf, or you might be paying at least $1,000 out of your paycheck for your group insurance. And when you get to Medicare, it's a fraction, a total reduction of cost, a fraction of the cost. And the beauty of the law is that the employer can legally write you a check and call it reimbursement in the memo for all of your Medicare costs. So that includes your Part B, and if you have the income adjustment to Part B, and you have the income adjustment to Part D, the drug plan, and you buy a supplement, and you buy a drug plan, and you buy a vision plan, and you buy a dental plan, all of those things fit on a nice handy worksheet that we've created, and they can be turned into the employer once a month. HR or whomever handles payroll can write you a check, call it reimbursement. It is not taxable income, and the employer can actually take that reimbursement and put it on their accounting system in the same place where they write off the cost of group insurance. So this is probably the biggest kept secret out there. The federal government's not going to announce it. You're not going to see it on TV in a commercial. It's where the advisors that work with Medicare and group insurance people, we know about that. So when it says employer may deduct the cost the same way the group insurance is expensed, the term accountants use is we're going to book it in the insurance column, which handles all your insurance, which are all tax deductible. And that's a wonderful thing. So this is a new thing as of last year that we started promoting, and this year we're continuing to promote that. Next slide. I want to point out that it said 2 to 19 employees. This part of the law is the one that everybody knows. HR knows this. We have 200 people, we have 25 people, we've got 50 people, 2,000 people. The employer cannot even bring up the subject of Medicare to an employee that's turning 65. Why? Because the employer cannot reimburse any of the cost if you have more than 20 employees. Now, fortunately, there is a workaround, which I won't share with you now, but there is a workaround that would allow that to happen, and it depends on the employers. There are some really large employers out that have thousands of employees, and they tell you up front, if you reach 65 and become eligible for Medicare, you have the option to take Medicare, and we will give you an allowance of $2,000, $3,000, whatever amount of money they choose to do, but it's not required by law to give an allowance. And so that's one of the most common things we run into. But keep in mind, don't even bring it up if you have more than 20 employees. Next slide. What is the process of selecting the best plan for you? Well, it's pretty simple. You can figure it out all by yourself. Just go to the website, medicare.gov, and hope you choose correctly. Or you could use a licensed certified professional health plan advisor like me at no cost. Next slide. Certified health insurance advisors like us have a series of things we have to do, just like lawyers have continuing ed. You're taking a CE class right now. Doctors have it, everybody has it, so do we. We have national boards from the American Health Insurance Plans in Washington called AHIP. We have a 6-hour class we have to take every year. We have an exam, passing score 90%, not 50, 60, 70, 90%. Every insurance company advisors represent have their own classes, and they again have the same requirement. You have to take the class every year, and you have to take the exam and pass it with 90% in order to know it cold and offer the plan to your consumer. We have to be licensed in every state that we're practicing, so we're in 39 of those. And the specific products that each carrier offers has to be taught to us by classes either online or in person, and all insurance companies require that. So anybody that does what I do has about 80 hours of personal time every year that we have to put into studying. We have to take the exams, and we have to know this cold. You ask me a question, I close my eyes and I can give you the answer. I don't have to go to a chart because I passed the exam. Next slide. Uh, I'm just going to bypass this slide and just point out that we have the ability to do the calculations for you. Some advisors are and some advisors are not. I want to thank you all for attending today. Any of you that have questions are welcome to put it in Q&A, put it in the chat, or even email them to me. If you have a specific question about a specific situation, feel free to reach out to me by email. It may take me a day or two to get back to you because right now we're getting about 300 emails from clients with what's going on in the Medicare world. So it takes a lot of time for my staff and I to get back. But
Well,
there
Barry,
is no
we have
cost to
some
me.
questions. So the
Go for
first
it, Terry.
one, we'll start with the first, we'll take it in order here. Actually, just one person made a comment, not a question. So we'll just start with the first one. This is someone who is still working at 65, has group health insurance. The person's also receiving Social Security. The person doesn't want to take Medicare at 65 because they have a great group insurance plan. Can they postpone Medicare without penalty until they retire and no longer have group coverage?
There's two answers here. The answer is yes for the question of postponing taking Medicare, and there are government forms that allow us to waive what's called the late enrollment penalty. But the person that is still working should not be taking Social Security because it may be taxed. Normally, up to 85% of it can be taxed, and it becomes part of your income that you're getting from your employer, and you don't want to do that if you don't have to. However, there's a third part of this, depends on what the group insurance is. Some people buy Medicare Part A only, and if you have Part A and you have a high deductible health plan, HDHP is what it's called, you cannot contribute to an HSA. One of those hidden secrets not everybody knows. So beware. The minute you get Social Security, that triggers the question.
And so our next question, I think that this should be a pretty straightforward one. What's the highest plan if you turn 65 before 2020? I assume that means what letter?
What letter? It used to be J, and then it became F as of 2020, and now it's G.
Now it's G.
And the alphabet doesn't make sense all the time that you think that F and G would, that the G would be lesser than F. So that's, it's the alphabet soup. That's just the way it is. So F
Great.
used to be the highest one before G became the highest today.
And then, I'll just throw in a follow-up on it. Were there some plans that used to not have deductibles, it seems historically?
Well, F has no, it has a deductible covered by the plan. Plan J has the deductible covered by the plan. But with Plan G, you have to pay the deductible manually, so it's not built into the premiums.
Okay. We have another question. I'm going to go to question. There was a comment, but I'm going to go to the question. Is someone eligible for Medicare but lived outside the United States for the last 10 years? How can he apply before he comes home?
He can go into the embassy in whatever country he's living in, and they have somebody that can help them do that with access to the website. Medicare.gov is not the website, it's SSA, Social Security Administration.gov. So that's one way. But the question is, will they get Part A for free? And so as long as they've worked 10 years somewhere in their life, they've paid into Social Security to get Part A for free. But if they haven't, they may have to pay for Part A. And right now, 99% of our society gets A for free.
Great. And then I apologize. I skipped the question that came right before that. Client is still FTE with employer plan. Maybe you know what that acronym is?
Full-time employee.
Oh, full-time employee. Got it. Client expects to retire at the end of 2025. So he applies for Part B, but his plans change and he puts off retiring and still has an employer plan in 2026. Can he put off Part B even though he has already applied for it?
The answer is yes. And there's actually a government form for that because it's not uncommon that a guy or gal works at a firm for a long time and just loves what they're doing. And then they turn 65 and say, I'm out of here. I've had enough. And then they go home and they're with their spouse 24/7, like during COVID. And they say, no, I can't stand this. It's not going to work for me. So
Mhm.
they check with Social Security and they go turn off the Part B. And then they can work till they're 90 if they want to, any age they want to. And then those same forms we use when they're aging in at 65 into Medicare or they're coming from group insurance will waive the penalty because your group insurance has drug plans, so you don't need Part D either. You don't need B, you don't need D.
Next question. If you are a sole practitioner with a LLP, I assume it's limited liability company, and you're turning 65, does it make sense to take Part B, not, he means Medicare Supplemental, it used to be Medigap, and have the limited liability company reimburse his premiums um, and 20% coinsurance so that he can write it off as a business expense? Well, that may be a little crossover into some tax issues, but if you could, you're free to comment on it, Barry, with a caveat emptor. You're an insurance man, not a tax man.
Exactly. Not practicing CPA type work. Um, it really doesn't make sense for a totally different reason. Is that the cost of using Medicare versus the cost of using any other health plan is grossly different. In California, specifically California, you are required by California law, not federal law, to have a health plan up to age 65. And whether it's an Obamacare plan from Covered California or from an employer, doesn't matter as long as you have it. If you don't have it, you pay a tax penalty in
Okay,
California.
I'm
Uh,
gonna go on. I'm gonna take them in different orders because some are
yes,
maybe I can just squeeze a comment in on the any end to deal with it. Uh, since the 20% is 20% of what Medicare pays rather than 20% of the doctor's rack rate, it looks to me that if you need a tremendously large amount of outpatient visits at 20% copay, it would to be greater, it should be greater than the cost of the supplement, could be greater than the cost of the supplemental plans. What do the Part B supplementals cover that is in addition to the 20% copay? Again, that may be too broad of a question, but if you want to you want to try to answer it simply,
well,
what
first
do
of all,
Part B supplements cover?
yeah, so the supplements are typically less than $200 a month. Start there. And they cover the 20% that is not covered by the federal government at 80%. That that is what you're getting in having a supplement.
And
There
I
is,
think he's asking, is there something more than that?
yes,
Can a supplement give you something more than the underlying Medicare plan?
that's where we talked about the extra benefits beyond Medicare, the gym, and all of these other dental, vision, hearing. All of these ancillary things are provided by the top four companies in the state of California.
Got it. I'm gonna zip through and get this other question I know that I've seen come up all the time. If a client travels for 1 month out of the United States, would Medicare pay out of country medical expenses? So this gets into the whole issue of you're traveling outside of the United States, and she puts in, a period of time, 1 month. Um, can you address Medicare and or supplemental care insurance payment for expenses when you're out of the United States?
Okay, so the answer is Plan G as a supplement covers up to $50,000 for travel, injury, or sickness. And
Got
it's
it.
built into the plan. And so you've got a $50,000 maximum, and that's fine if you're going to Canada, Mexico, or the Caribbean. Go anywhere further where you fly 5 hours or more, it's not enough money to cover the cost of being repatriated, sent back to the United States for your health care. So there's a product that is on the market that we've used for years called Travel Medical, not trip insurance. It only insures your body, for the number of days you're gone. Very low cost. Very low
Excellent.
cost.
Next gentleman received a letter that Anthem was out. Thereafter, I received a letter they're providing coverage. Is Anthem in or out? I assume the state of California.
The United States, Anthem and Blue Cross are not selling drug plans any longer. Just the drug plan. They still have their Medicare supplement. They still have all of their Medicare Advantage plans, their individual, their group, their large group, their small group. It's just the drug plan that they are withdrawing from the market.
Got it. And I'm going to now, we're 1 minute over, but I think this is just a 1 minute question. And the other one is just, it was a comment. Barry, is there a site to see what drugs are covered?
Medicare.gov.
Beautiful. Barry, thank you so much. Boy, do
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. And
Thank you,
someone put a
Terry.
note
Thank
up
you
there
for
that
the
everybody could
opportunity.
see too. It wasn't a question, but you're free to look at the question and answer and see the note that someone put up just as a commentary on plans in Contra Costa County. And Barry, I just want to express our gratitude again for
Thank you.
like what an excellent presentation and excellent resource you are. And look forward, God willing, to seeing you again next year.
Thank you so much. One last comment for any of you that want slides or want pieces of this. The ones that were posted originally were changed because of some of the new data that just came out today. So check with the Beverly Hills Bar Association office with Susie, and she can get you the current version of what you've seen.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
everybody in the webcast audience. Thank you, Barry. See everybody at the next program, hopefully on December 1. Okay,
Thank
bye
you all.
now.
Bye-bye.